The story of Abraham, from leaving Ur to fulfilling the promise. In today's video, you'll explore the story of the patriarch Abraham, a story full of twists and turns, where God transforms a simple man into a nation that would become one of the most iconic of all time. Let's journey through this beautiful story. What if God asked you to leave everything behind? Your land, your family, your safety. What if you went to a place you'd never seen, trusting only in a promise? That is exactly what happened to Abraham, an ordinary man, living in Ur of the Chaldeans, who heard a voice that would change his life and forever mark the history of faith. This is the story of a man who walked with God when there were no scriptures, who believed when everything seemed impossible, and who became known as the father of faith. Abraham was born in Ur of the Chaldeans, one of the most advanced cities of its time, a center of commerce, culture, and idolatry. There, people served many gods, and life followed a comfortable and predictable pattern. He was just an ordinary man, but it was to him that the true God chose to reveal himself. Suddenly, without warning, without detailed explanations, God spoke to Abram and made a calling that demanded everything from him. God promised to make Abram a great nation, to bless him, to make his name great, and through him, to bless all the families of the earth. Abram was about 75 years old. His wife Sarai was barren. He had no children or heirs. Yet, he left Ur, took Sarai, his nephew Lot, his servants, his flocks, and set off into the unknown. There were no maps. There were no guarantees. There was only faith. The journey took Abram to the land of Canaan. Upon arriving, he found a land occupied by other peoples. The promise was there, but not its immediate fulfillment. Even so, God appeared again and said that that land would be given to his descendants. Abraham built altars wherever he went. Each altar was a silent declaration of trust. He did not yet possess the land, but he already worshipped as if it were his own. In time, a great famine struck. To survive, Abram went down to Egypt. There, fear prevailed. Fearing he would be killed because of Sarai's beauty, he asked her to say she was his sister. The decision had consequences. Sarai was taken to Pharaoh's house, and God intervened with plagues until the truth came to light. Even after making a mistake, Abram left Egypt alive, with his possessions and God's protection. This reveals a profound truth. God is faithful, even when his servants fail. Back in Canaan, Abram prospered greatly. His flocks increased, as did Lot's. The land was no longer sufficient for both of them. Conflicts began to arise between the shepherds. To avoid contention, Abram took a humble stance. He gave Lot the right to choose first. Lot chose the fertile plains of the Jordan River, near Sodom. Abram took the less attractive part in human eyes. After the separation, God spoke to Abram again and reaffirmed his promise. All that land would be given to him and his descendants forever. Abram understood that the blessing did not depend on what the eyes saw, but on God's faithfulness. Sometime later, a war between kings broke out in the region. Cities were sacked, and Lot was taken prisoner. Upon learning of this, Abram gathered his men and set out to rescue his nephew. Against all odds, he defeated the enemy kings and freed Lot. Upon returning from battle, Abram met Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of the Most High God. He blessed him, and Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. This encounter showed that Abram's faith already produced obedience, honor, and recognition that all victory came from God. Even after so many promises, Abram remained childless. Time passed, and the promise seemed ever more distant. Abraham believed God, and his faith was credited as righteousness. At that moment, God changed his name to Abraham, which means father of a multitude. Sarai became known as Sarah, princess. Even with a new name and a new promise, the wait continued. As the years passed, Sarah lost hope and suggested that Abraham have a child with her servant Hagar. Abraham agreed. Ishmael was born, but it soon became clear that he was not the son of the promise. The mistake brought conflict, pain, and separation. Yet, God cared for Hagar and Ishmael, showing that his mercy extends even to those born from misguided decisions. When Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, God did the impossible. Sarah became pregnant. The laughter of disbelief turned into laughter of joy. The boy was named Isaac, the son of the promise. Everything seemed finally resolved, but Abraham's faith would still be tested in an extreme way. The request seemed to contradict all the promises made up to that point. Even so, Abraham obeyed. He went up the mountain with his son, trusting that God knew what he was doing. Isaac carried the wood. Abraham carried the faith. At the crucial moment, God intervened. A ram appeared, and Isaac was spared. God never wanted the sacrifice of the son. He wanted the heart of the father. In that place, God reaffirmed his promise. Through Abraham, all the nations of the earth would be blessed. Sarah died, and Abraham bought a burial place in Canaan. It was the first concrete possession of the promised land, a sign that the promise was underway. Abraham lived 175 years. He died at a good old age, content, leaving a legacy of faith that would endure through generations. He didn't see all the promises fulfilled in his lifetime, but he died believing in them. The story of Abraham teaches us that faith is not the absence of doubt, but a decision to trust. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. I'll see you in the next video.